line and Matthews with you, but before we just get off the goaltending, the Stolar's injury, we know where you feel about Joseph Wall, but did Stolar's injury now completely change the management mindset? Because we went into the season, even prior to training camp, thinking that it's Joseph Wall's net and Stolar's will be there to back him up. And then Stolar's goes a house on fire and gets hurt. But is the fact now that he's hurt and the history of the knees have come up, and like, where are you now moving forward, let's say a month from now?
Yeah, now I'm trying to like Google remedies for dry heaving. Now I'm thinking about it. Like, I don't know. You're making me nervous. That was always the concern, like not just with like that was the concern coming into the season with the Leafs' entire goaltending picture. Can they stay healthy? I think the fact that this latest injury is not related to past injuries is a good thing.
We don't know that.
No, you try to take. I'm catching myself here. I was about to say you try to take the Leafs and their injury stuff at face value, but that's been kind of a messy road to walk down lately. I think they had always wanted this to be. You're right. They had wanted this to be Joseph Wall's net. It comes back to what I said before. He still has to prove that he can stay healthy too. And that's kind of unfair to him. Okay. But no, I don't know if it's changed much, right? What has it changed for you? What does it change for you guys?
Yeah, it does change for me a little bit. I'd rather deal with Joseph Wall's injury history than Stolar's. Stolar's makes me 10 times more nervous than Joseph Wall's.
Yeah, I think the thing that
you can see
that gets me with Anthony Stolarz, though, is like a lot about his injuries. Some of them, the second one in particular, was literally just a freak knee injury. Like he was telling me that, and it sounds strange, but like he was in his truck and his leg just turned, and he was like, "Oh, that doesn't feel right." Whereas I think with Joseph Wall, they had concerns about what he was doing in the offseason. Was he taking care of his body in the right way, but were there things he could do to better prepare himself and his muscles, his body, in the game? So maybe that's why I'm not as concerned. I don't know. It's injuries, goalies. It's voodoo.
But it's not just goalies. It's McMahon and it's Matthews and it's Pacioretty, and there's like some concerns in this team. I love it when it is functional.
They're all day to day. Don't worry about it. It's all day to day. It's all
That's
day
so
to day.
true. Yeah.
I don't know why you're getting concerned. It's day to day.
Nothing to see here. Day to day.
Day to day.
So the big boys get thrown together for a full hockey game. According to Sportlogic, last time it had happened was in 2020. According to William Nylander, it had never happened for a full game before. What are your thoughts on them finally trying it for a game? And I don't know, maybe it going imperfectly and what that means now.
I mean, my thoughts are don't consult William Nylander for history lessons.
Oh, like, God, that's a great point.
That's like, William Nylander. Yeah. Anyway, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I think back to the 2020 series against Columbus, where Sheldon did it a few times, and he was trying to win games late. Mm-hmm. But it always felt like a desperation play more than anything else. And I'm not saying that's what it was last night, but like, do you need to do this? Like, what's your end game here? Because you're not going to do this for the rest of the season. You're not going to do this in the playoffs. When Sheldon did it against the Blue Jackets, it was, we're down. We have to win these games for people to keep their jobs. And that's the way it felt to me then. And now, like, so if you're down in Game 7 against whoever it ends up being this year, maybe you try it. But I just think now, I was about to say I feel like it sets the rest of the four lines back, but the third line last night proved me wrong. But like, why? You're not going to do it in Game 1 against Tampa. Why are you doing it now? What are you hoping to learn? Mm-hmm. What are you hoping to get that you wouldn't get otherwise? Are you trying to do it to give Matthews some juice? Because Like, let's call a spade a spade. It doesn't look like he's got it right now, right? But there's other ways to do that. I think it sets the rest of the four lines back. I don't know, and I think the numbers kind of bear that out.
Early in the show, we gave our thoughts on what we see from Austin. Yeah. Tell us what you see. Tell us what's missing. Tell us where is the second best player in the world.
He looks like someone like me that's like, I've got a lot of Christmas shopping to do. I've got some stories to finish. Various parts of my body are hurting because I'm on the wrong side of 40. Like, he looks like he's wearing a lot now.
So let's just get through this.
He looks like he is being pulled in different directions mentally. And maybe that's too deep a read on it, but I wonder if there's something nagging him, injury. Like, he looked like he was slower than normal last night. I mean, the back check on the one goal, like, doesn't that get other players benched for, a few shifts, right?
Maybe, yeah.
Like, doesn't that kind of effort get a fourth liner, stapled to the bench for the rest of the period? I don't know. You would think, like, normally with scorers, it's like once they get one, the floodgates open, but he's being asked to do multiple different things. He's not just a scorer. It's an easy way, but sometimes, like, the right answer is the easiest one. Like, just looks like he's carrying a little something, some kind of injury or some kind of ache, because he's not spry. And when he's not spry, it's very noticeable.
Josh, we only got a quick minute here, but got to ask you about the third line and whether or not the last two games on the third line would give you the belief that, all things being equal, through the trade deadline, you could start them all together in the playoffs?
You could start that third line together in the playoffs if you accept that defensively you might get caved in. And you just better hope that,
that's
like,
not a play. That's
never
really
going to
not
happen.
I don't really want to start my playoff run with we may get caved in.
I would have liked, but then you hope that, like, Max Domi is his best self, and him and Nick Robertson find the kind of chemistry that you think passers and shooters would have. But no, like, what do you expect? Like, you're gonna Domi, Nick Robertson. That doesn't scream defensive stability to me.
No.
But if you accept that, you hope it gets you some goals at the other end. But again, Craig Berube doesn't strike me as someone that would be a lot of fun in Vegas. Like, he's not a gambler, right? So I don't know if it's going to stick. But if it builds Nick Robertson up, do it, because, like, he's hanging on for dear life, and I don't know. Where's the trade value? What are you really going to get from him? So you're best off, to me, to just, like, keep trying to get a goal here and there out of him, because, like, that might be your only option right now.
I proposed to Jim Nill the other day, just trade him for your brother straight up, because Jason ain't doing a whole lot better right now in Dallas.
Why didn't I think of that?
There you go.
It was right there for you.
Joshua, great stuff, man. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, take care, guys.
Thanks, Cloak. Yeah.
Joshua Cloak, Athletic.
If Nick Robertson were to get traded, our show would have to fold. We would have no content.
So I think for no other reason, if you talk about the big three on the Leafs now, you could claim that is the most expensive line in NHL history.
Yeah, well, it is currently the most expensive one. So logically, it would carry out that ever. This is the most expensive line in the history of hockey.
In the history of the game.
Leafs facing center crisis amid injuries, eyeing trade market for solutions. As the Toronto Maple Leafs battle through a growing injury list and a suspension, their lack of depth at the center position has become a glaring issue. According to Sportsnet's Elliotte Friedman in his latest 32 Thoughts article, the Leafs are among the teams exploring trade options to bolster their lineup. This effort is coming amid increasing competition from teams like the Chicago Blackhawks and Nashville Predators, who have also set their sights on improving their center depth. Friedman didn't mince words about the Leafs' predicament. The teams currently focusing on centers, including Chicago and Nashville, must consider when others will enter the market. Toronto will undoubtedly be one of those teams, he wrote. While the Blackhawks and Predators may have an edge in terms of cap space and assets, the Leafs remain a team to watch as the season progresses. The Leafs situation is urgent, with up to 7 forwards currently unavailable due to injury or suspension. Ryan Reeves is serving a 5-game suspension, while key players like Austin Matthews, upper body, Matthew Knies, upper body, Kaye Jarnkrok, groin/sports hernia, David Kampf, lower body, Max Domi, lower body, and Max Pacioretty, lower body, are all sidelined. The team has even considered temporarily shifting Mitch Marner to the center position, highlighting the severity of their depth issues. This isn't just a short-term concern for the Leafs. Depth at center has been a persistent challenge for the team, and while stopgap solutions like Marner could help in the interim, the front office appears keen to explore longer-term fixes. For fans of the blue and white, this has been a recurring theme. The Leafs' center depth often becomes a problem at the worst possible times. James Myrtle of The Athletic recently added more fuel to the speculation, naming several potential trade targets who could help the Leafs address their issues. Among them is Ryan O'Reilly, a familiar name for Toronto fans. O'Reilly, who signed a 4-year, $18 million deal with Nashville in 2023, might be a trade candidate if the Predators' underwhelming start to the season, 6-11-3, 31st in the league, prompts a rebuild. However, his steep price tag and history with the Leafs, including rejecting a free agency offer less than 2 years ago, make this a complex and potentially unlikely move. Other names mentioned by Myrtle include former Leaf Nazem Kadri, currently with Calgary, as well as players like Michael Granlund, Nick Jugstad, Brock Nelson, Yanni Gourde, Trent Frederick, Radek Faksa, and Sean Kuraly. While some of these options seem more plausible than others, it's clear that general manager Brad Treliving will need to get creative to find the right piece without mortgaging the team's future. Cap space remains one of the biggest obstacles for the Leafs. Unlike teams like Chicago and Nashville, which have more flexibility and assets, Toronto is walking a financial tightrope. As Friedman noted, competition will intensify as cap-constrained teams strive to create room. For the Leafs, that could mean waiting for the market to develop further, a risky move given their current needs. The situation also highlights the Leafs' ongoing struggle to build a roster that can withstand the grueling nature of an NHL season. Injuries are an inevitability in hockey, but Toronto's current predicament underscores the importance of depth, a quality the team has struggled to consistently maintain. Looking back on recent years, the Leafs have often leaned heavily on their star players, particularly Matthews, Marner, and William Nylander. While these players have delivered in spades, the lack of reliable depth options has left the team vulnerable in critical moments. The current crisis at center is merely the latest example of this recurring issue. Some fans have called for more aggressive moves from Treliving, arguing that now is the time to strike while the team's core is in its prime. Others, however, are more cautious, pointing to the dangers of overpaying for short-term fixes. Striking the right balance will be key, especially as the Leafs aim to keep their championship window open. Despite the challenges, there's no denying that Toronto has the talent to be a contender, provided they can patch up their lineup. The ongoing rumors and speculation surrounding potential trades show that the Leafs are at least exploring every avenue to strengthen their roster. For fans of the blue and white, this moment feels like a pivotal point in the season. With a lineup ravaged by injuries and a tough schedule ahead, the Leafs must act decisively to avoid falling behind in the standings. The addition of a dependable center could be the difference between weathering the storm or watching another season slip away. Whether it's O'Reilly, Kadri, or another surprise name, one thing is certain: the Leafs are under pressure to deliver. And for a fan base as passionate and loyal as Toronto's, there's no room for excuses. The time to act is now, and Leafs Nation is watching closely. As the trade deadline approaches, the stakes couldn't be higher. Will Treliving pull off a move that solidifies the Leafs' status as a contender, or will the search for center depth become yet another chapter in the team's long history of what-ifs? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure: it's never boring in Leafs land. As the Maple Leafs navigate this critical juncture, their fan base remains as vocal as ever. Toronto is a city that breathes hockey, and the pressure on Brad Treliving to make the right moves is immense. Every decision he makes, or doesn't make, will be scrutinized, from talk radio to social media, where Leafs Nation is already debating the merits of the various names being floated as potential trade targets. Among the louder debates is whether the team should prioritize a high-profile acquisition like Ryan O'Reilly or Nazem Kadri, or focus on a lower-cost, reliable center who can fill a supporting role without costing too many future assets. While O'Reilly's leadership and playoff experience make him an attractive option, his contract and recent history with the Leafs add layers of complexity to any potential reunion. Similarly, Kadri's gritty, two-way playstyle remains a fan favorite, but his cap hit and availability might render him an unrealistic target. Another factor complicating the Leafs situation is their tight salary cap. While Chicago and Nashville can make moves with relative ease due to their financial flexibility, Toronto must navigate a labyrinth of constraints to make any trade work. This likely means including salary retention or moving existing contracts to make room, which could drive up the cost of any potential deal. The question then becomes, how much are the Leafs willing to sacrifice to address their immediate needs? One potential trade partner generating buzz is the Seattle Kraken. Yanni Gourde, a dependable two-way center, has been mentioned as a possible target. Gourde's versatility and championship pedigree from his time with Tampa Bay make him an appealing option. Seattle, however, is in playoff contention and may not be inclined to part with a key piece unless the Leafs can provide a substantial return. Another intriguing name is Brock Nelson of the New York Islanders. Nelson is a consistent scorer and reliable faceoff-man, qualities that would undoubtedly bolster Toronto's center depth. However, the Islanders are notoriously cautious when it comes to trades, and prying Nelson away would likely require a significant package, including picks or prospects that the Leafs may be hesitant to part with. For all the trade talk, some analysts believe the solution might come from within. Sheldon Keefe has shown a willingness to experiment with his lineup, and players like Pontus Holmberg or Fraser Minton could be given an opportunity to step up. While relying on less experienced players carries risks, it might be the Leafs' only option if the trade market proves too costly or slow to develop. Adding to the Leafs' urgency is the timing. The Atlantic Division remains one of the toughest in the league, with teams like Boston, Florida, and Tampa Bay continuing to dominate. Any prolonged slump could see Toronto slip further down the standings, putting their playoff hopes in jeopardy. For a team with Stanley Cup aspirations, failing to address their weaknesses could have catastrophic consequences. Brad Treliving's history as a general manager suggests he's not afraid to make bold moves. His time with the Calgary Flames was marked by blockbuster trades, including the acquisition of Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar in the Matthew Tkachuk deal. Leafs fans hope he brings that same decisiveness to Toronto, especially as the trade deadline looms. Beyond the immediate need for a center, this situation underscores a broader issue with the Leafs' roster construction. Depth has been a perennial concern, and while Toronto boasts some of the league's top-end talent, their reliance on a handful of stars has left them vulnerable in moments like this. Moving forward, addressing this imbalance must be a priority for the front office if the team is to achieve sustained success. As the Leafs head into a critical stretch of the season, the next few weeks could define their trajectory.